Good morning, good morning. It's Tuesday again. It's our Tuesdays for facilitation. I love that when I put this intro video, everyone laughs. I don't know. It's it's all of my guests that watch the intro video are like, this is fun. Looks fun. Looks fun. It's going to be fun. So here we are again. It's another Tuesday. Um, Today I have a very special guest. We're going to be speaking in English, but he's actually a colleague from Brazil. So every time I say his name, Henrique, I'm going to speak it in Brazilian way.
Perfect.
So good morning, Henrique. Nice having you here today.
Very nice to meet you and be here with you, Tai. What I like about the entrance, let me talk about. It feels like you're going to a late night show or early morning show, and you have clapping, and it's fake. It's an auditorium, but you feel like good, good, good. So that's why, and of course, seeing all the faces that you've been interviewing, it's really wow.
It's not fake. It's all on your heads. If you can imagine it, you can do it. That's the basics
Yes.
of the facilitation. So, Enrique, without further ado, everyone that arrives at Tuesday for facilitation starts answering one specific question, and then we go on with our conversation. So, please, Enrique, tell us, how do you show up when you facilitate?
Good one. Well, first, also, I have to comment about the way you pronounce my name. When I grew up in Brazil, I thought my parents chose the perfect name, the most pronounceable name in the planet until I first time left the country. I went abroad, met people from other countries, and they couldn't pronounce my name. And that's our life. But I love it. Yeah, it's a Hiki, but people pronounce this name in many different ways, even having nicknames in different cultures as people meet me. I show up as facilitator in three ways. I think there are many facets of me because one is being Brazilian, being born and grew up in Brazil. I think I always bring the smile. I bring the empathy, the enthusiasm, the hug. And I think that's very unique. We, coming from Brazil, many Brazilians don't realize that, how special this is. Like look in the eye, being there, being connected, the expression of connection. I think it's something that for some time I was like, is it not? But today I'm very like I can say that because I think that is a way that is different, it's unique, and many Brazilians share that. I think I lived for a long time in Northern Europe, like in the Netherlands. I lived in Denmark for many years, and there I think in the Netherlands I learned to be assertive, to be punctual, to be hard sometimes, which is very not Brazilian in that sense, right? In many aspects, we're very soft, we're kind, we're harmony, and the Dutch are very honest, direct. And I think I learned a lot from that. So I think when we're facilitating, we need to be direct, we need to be assertive, we need to be clear. And I thank my time there, my wife who's Dutch, all my Dutch family for teaching me this for the last 20 years. And I think in Denmark, where I had my formal training as a facilitator, I learned to be humble. There's something in the Nordic culture of not being too special. You're one of many. You're just a person. And I think there's a style of facilitation that puts you as a facilitator, not as someone special, but puts you in the same level as the participants. You're just a human being in a collaboration, a conversation. And I think that's also something I try to bring when I'm with groups. Yeah.
That you said something about your name. So for those who doesn't know, my name is Tayane. So there's absolutely no way foreigners can say that name. So Thai is great. Not even my parents call me my full name anymore. It's done. It's changed. But I suffer with the same problem. I
Yes.
have suffered with the same problem. And you know how interesting it is. You said about learning. I've just been on the Netherlands. So yes, they can be very direct, and I think that's amazing. And I think I came back exactly with the same feeling that that's something I have to learn more. But I have heard from one of the participants of one project that I did last year, and she was she came to me at the end, and she's from Porto Alegre, so from the south of Brazil. She's like, oh my God, what a charismatic dictator are you?
Good description. Yes.
What? And I'm like, isn't that the way dictators are made? I mean, they are charismatic. If they're not going to be ruling countries. Sometimes we have to be very strict with the time. Because if not, everyone, I know people are enjoying themselves, but if not, we're just there and we don't get to the goal the session has to have. So, we are always the one having to play this role and
Yes.
trying to see how we can, be more strict with the time, but also more empathic. All right. So we have a journey today, right? That I thought. But before I ask you like this first question, I want to tell people that are online that you can comment. Please comment, ask us questions. We will see your comments on LinkedIn. We cannot see them on YouTube for now, but I will see you on LinkedIn. We already have a comment from someone. From Christian. I don't know if you know him, but he's saying he's on the south of Chile and he's talking about the fires in the forest in Chile right now. Yes, it's insane. The situation is very bad. Not only on the south of Chile at this point, right? It's we're struggling with a lot with environmental disasters. So, Henrique, let's get to this point, right? Before we get to where you are today as a cross-cultural facilitator, there's a long journey of you. You said you've been to Canada. You said you've been to the Netherlands. You've been to Denmark. There are different moments in your life where you're able to access different types of methodologies, different types of education system, different moments where you are able to learn how to build things collectively, right? Like alternative opportunities you had while you were in university that allowed you to see the world in different ways, and international movements, all of this access. Could you share with us a little bit of how everything started, or if you can think of, because we never know, right?
Yeah.
And when you start yourself facilitating something for the first time.
Oh, good one. Yeah, good one. I think that I didn't I didn't know the word facilitation until in my early 20s. Like until I was 20, I think there was a lot of people doing facilitation. Sometimes I was doing that, but there was not a word for that. But I didn't know the word, like when I found the word, I was like, okay, interesting. I think that I had a lot of opportunities during university, but you know what? I was thinking about that. I was always curious about how people collaborate or don't collaborate. I don't know exactly where it comes from, but I can tell you when I was younger, I didn't tell you this story actually, because I grew up in Porto Alegre, in the city in the south of Brazil. And in the 80s, that's telling a little bit about my age, there was an experiment of participatory budgeting. So the municipality had an experience of part of the budget of the city would be decided by the citizens directly, not through their representatives in the parliament, but directly in the neighborhoods, by themes, by neighborhoods. And I was so curious about that. I think I was maybe 15, 16, and I went to many of the sessions. I watched the sessions. I saw people coming with their, using the microphone, talking about what they wanted, making the requests, and I was fascinated by it. And at the same time, I thought extremely boring. Of course, I was 16. I didn't understand what they're talking about that. I think that later, when I joined university, I was part of what we call like students' union, of the university. I was a representative at the university, which was, of course, then I felt more like feeling responsible for making sure the university was just, the university was accessible, the university, was open for more people, was able to support people who have needs. It was a public university, so I was privileged in a way to enter that university, which allowed me to be there without paying tuition. So my parents didn't have the cost of the university, so I could, in a way, I would say relax a little bit and enjoy that environment, right? Because of course I was taking less classes because I was joining this kind of activities. I even joined a little bit of student political things. Like I went to congresses of student unions, and I hated it. It was really horrible. I didn't like it. I said, boring. I don't want to do that. It's boring. It didn't work. It was this big assemblies, sorry to say, but a little bit communist style. It was really horrible. There was no discussion, no argument. I felt really like a waste of time doing that. And then later I found out ISEC, which is this student organization, student-led organization, exists for over 70, 80 years now. And it had, for me, the opportunity of going abroad. I was curious to travel abroad, to have a professional experience, to improve my English. And then through ISEC, I went to Canada. And there, I not only had a very nice professional experience, but I also was able to become a volunteer at the organization. And then when I came back to Brazil, I was part of ISEC for like 5 years, being local chapter president and then national president. And then that was part of this leadership playground, right? It was like a little sandbox, because we were just playing of, doing things, but it was a responsibility. You had to, secure the resources, recruit people, train people, make partnerships with companies to bring people from abroad. There was even legal responsibilities, because we're dealing with people and visas and everything. So there was a process, there was a lot of things happening. And I remember that when we had our retreats, our planning sessions, because everybody was volunteer there. So that's nice. When you take the money out of the equation, how would people make decisions? How would they choose? So basically, if I would run this as the local president, like as the CEO, and they would decide, hey, Ty, you're going to do this. The goal is that this is your responsibility. Go there. And you say, hey, Henrique, I don't want to do that. You just quit. You just leave. You have better things to do when you're 20 years old than work in an organization doing something that you don't want to do. So I had to rethink all the time, okay, how do I engage people emotionally, professionally, find the meaning so that Ty wants to stay there because she's going to learn something, she's going to develop herself, achieve their goals, and by doing that, we're all going to achieve our goals, let's say, in this small organization. So I think that a lot of things about engagement, connection, collaboration came from those years and those experiences. Like I remember when I was being national president, we were at that time 300 people in 15 cities around Brazil. And at that time, of course, I was already part of this global organization. And then it was very nice to be collaborating with people in different continents, in all kinds of similar issues, because in a way you're like a CEO of a global organization when you're 22. So it's really fun and a very, very learnful experience. Yeah.
And it's made for students, from students from university, from 20 years old to 20 years old. So I find, I've been also part of Make Sense, Isaac, Choice, and Nactus, the junior enterprise movement, everything extra that I could do during university, I was there.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant and so important, either at high school or at university years. I would say like between 17, if you're already like eager and ready for it. I was not. When I was 16, I was a little boy, but some people are already ready for it. Until you're 25, I think you got to experiment with this kind of collaboration spaces for anything, like in the case of environmental missions, leadership development missions, youth leadership. I think that you learn so much from that. I think it's in a way, it requires some privilege because you need to have the space, right? The space to dedicate yourself to something besides studying and for many people working already at that age. But I think it makes a big difference later on in life.
And we can get into another question, because I think this has everything to do. You're a proud father of two. Your kids are tiny. They're still very small. They're in school time. And they're growing up themselves in this very diverse and multicultural environment, besides having a father, which already can see that, while you're growing up, that's what you're supposed to be into. You're supposed to experiment the world and experiment the opportunities your school and your universities, your high school is going to promote to you. How do you think your life experiences are now helping your kids to see the world in a different way? Do you see yourself as somehow a facilitator of your kids' lives and activities?
Yes. Well, I think it's important to say that also my wife is a facilitator. She's like an amazing facilitator. She always been since she was 15 years old, we connected. When we met, we connected through this shared experiences we had, life experiences in multicultural spaces. So I think that combination brought us together with some shared values, like shared global values. And I think that helps a lot to raise kids. Like when the parents, like we share that, we can bring that to the kids. And it's, of course, yes, it's amazing. I think I learned a lot about leadership, about myself by being a father. I'm learning, like my daughter, my oldest is 12. So I think I still have a lot to learn with her, like in the next years. And I think this has been really insightful for me as a person, as a facilitator. Like they teach me a lot about that as well at home.
Yeah, I would bet that. And I think like how, if we go to the opposite extremes, because I guess that's not how I was raised or you were raised, with parents that are very strict and they have very big expectations of their kids. I'm a dropout. I left university. So that was a big drama in the family, but not anymore. It's been 15 years, so it shouldn't. Um, but it's so interesting, to be able to have parents that will be supportive, and not only supportive because they are nice and they are supportive like our parents are, because what my parents do has nothing to do with what I do. I mean, they don't even know what I do, which happens a lot with a lot of people in our field.
Yeah.
But having the possibility to be able to show the world, to be able to show our kids through different lenses, right? Especially when we're talking about living in multicultural environments, because you're Brazilian.
Absolutely.
Today you're living in Portugal.
Portugal. Yes.
And your wife is not Brazilian, right?
Now she's from the Netherlands. She's Dutch.
There we go. So we have
Yeah.
already a mixture here. And it's probably going to be moving a little bit more around for you and for the kids.
Yeah, I think that's very important. I think myself, as time goes and you have different experiences, you lived abroad, you lived in different spaces. I lived in Brazil, of course, for many, many years, most of my life. But still, I bring a little bit of different cultures. Like you pick and choose, what from each culture I want to keep for myself. And the same for my wife. And I think for our kids, it's the same. I think they are very Brazilian. They were both born in Brazil, first years in Brazil. They're also Dutch. They have a lot of elements from her mother and her mother's family, but they also become a bit Portuguese. Not only in their accent, they speak the way they speak Portuguese, but in other things in their lives. And I want them to realize that they can choose whatever they want. They will, and to know that they will have problems, almost not everywhere, but they'll find problems in a lot of places. Because I think people who haven't experienced other cultures think, as I always say, is like talking about culture, they think that their culture is the only way of living, right? And the best way of living. But once you experience other cultures in a deeper way, you realize that your way of living is just one among many. Is it the best? Yeah, maybe for me it's the best, but it doesn't mean it's the best for you or for anybody else. So I think that I think my kids, they're not either cultures, but they're all the cultures that they have experienced. I think I hope that at least.
This is very good, because people are growing up and they are needing to learn that after they're already grown. And some of them really struggle, because the older we get, more difficult it is for us to get along with the difference, right? And multicultural environments are quite challenging. Sometimes people in the room, they don't speak, the same language. It's very good when no one has, when we're speaking in English, for example, and no one there has English as their first language. Because if I'm facilitating a place where it's not also my first language, so everyone here has to have a little bit of patience with everyone, because we're speaking in a third language, which is the one that's going to connect us all, people in different cultures and in different organizational culture, people, they behave very differently. Psychological safety, it comes in different shapes and forms when you come to think of multicultural rooms. And when you have a diverse group of people, you find it out right there how they're going to behave. It's not like any science is going to tell you, hey, there's a room full of people from this country or from this social or from this reality. What are some joys? Because, now getting to what you do today, what are some joys and challenges of working with multicultural and global teams and organizations?
Yeah. I think I'll connect to what you said earlier about, and that's a challenge, is how we sometimes grow up as adults. And that's the people we meet in the rooms, right? When we are facilitating a different process, we're mostly dealing with adults. And yes, some of them have had this multicultural experience, but most of them don't. And then they have this fixed ideas about, how things are not. And then, yes, if everybody's from the same culture or they share enough cultural elements, they might not realize that. But once you put a multicultural group or people, like you said, from different organizations, different teams, different social classes, different genders, different countries, suddenly it clashes. And I think one of what I found a big challenge, a big sorrow of this kind of work is to find a lot of bias and prejudice and fixed mindsets. Like there's people who they just know what's right, what's wrong, and they judge other people based on their own reality. And I think the world, as diverse as it is, as big as it is, as complex as it is, we need to recognize first that there's not a single reality. People live different lives, and we need to be able to practice our empathy. It's not being empathic, because I think it's ask a lot, but try to connect, try to be curious, try to see the other side, to be able to have a conversation. I think this, like the context that we share, that can be through language, through humor, like when a joke makes sense in a room or not. It all affects how people behave to each other. In the other hand, like joys, like I love being multicultural groups. I love these elements of these differences, the surprises. Like when you're able to, people surprise each other with elements from their cultures. What, you think like that? What, you behave like this? Is it common in your country? Really? And this kind of things, when we are in a space of curiosity and openness, that I think is part of our job as facilitators to help to create, brings a lot of amusement, a lot of fun as well, and allows creativity, allows collaboration, allows innovation to take place. And I think when we get there, that's like super nice to see people from different cultures who maybe didn't know each other very well, maybe from different countries, or even like when you're in the same organization, like people from different teams, different units who never talked to each other, who saw themselves as aliens to each other. Suddenly they are sharing a conversation, sharing a meal, talking about collaborating later on, and finding out that actually they have more in common than they have differences.
This is very, it's right before we started this live, we were talking about this LinkedIn post I just saw of someone, making this bold statement, those social media statements where like, no one wants to do this anymore in the sessions. And then it starts with a list of things like, clapping or dancing or this and that. No one wants to. And I find this very interesting because I've had situations where I had a diverse set of people in the room, and then we asked them to do these random things, and they're like, I'm so glad I did this. It happens a lot with Lego Serious Play. It's like, I'm so glad I did this because I've never thought as a grown-up that I would sit in a room with my fellow C-levels to assemble Lego and find it valuable and find it useful, and reaching out, talking about we did this in this feedback I got in the oil company in Nigeria last month. We're like, the CEO was like, I've never thought as a grown-up and as a CEO of an oil company I would be playing Lego with my colleagues. So we have this this role of not only understanding the environment, but also bringing up the right tools that will make that environment flourish, right? And I think,
just bring an example of Lego, because I think we use a lot of creative tools, right? Tools that allow people to break their fixed ideas and think differently in different ways, like in Lego or colorful post-its or other methods. And sometimes people react to that. I guess you've been in rooms when people arrive in rooms like, oh no, really?
Yeah.
This is for children. My kids, my grandchildren play with this. Come on. What do you do? How do you?
I've never, I've heard, because what I've heard from people that hired me, that, oh, you might get some resistance because we don't always use Lego, right? Important thing
any
that
creative tools that you have.
Yeah, any kind of creative tools. And I think I trust my design so much. And sometimes I have to change. Sometimes it really doesn't work. So the whole thing, maybe you're planning something in which is a collage, and people, I don't know, can't cut or can't. You have to change. Sometimes I change, but I allow people and I invite them firstly to try. Let's try. If it doesn't work, I'll change. I have no problem. I wasn't born with the design of this session. We can detach.
Yeah.
How about you? What do you do? What have you done?
Well, I think two words that you use are very important that I always say. It's an invitation. I'm not ordering anything. It's an invitation. It's your choice. You don't have to do it. But I would like to invite you. And give a try. Give a try. Like that. Try, I think it's a very, very powerful two words that I always use to help convince in a way. And I think what you said about the design, I think it's a lot to do with that. It's like you need to prepare the group. Like what kind of preparation it's required for them to reach that level where they will freely play with magazines, scissors, Lego, make a little scheme, a little prototype of something they're developing, or whatever it is, clapping or singing or dancing, right? The examples that you brought. I think this all is possible to happen if you do enough preparation to get the participants there. And I think it always starts with what I do is to get to know the participants, get to know the group, and to know where they are, right? Where are they? And I go there. Okay, if they're in a place where anything is too much, anything is too like they're not used to anything.
Because you can feel, guys, like you can feel the tension in the air. Sometimes the tension is so deep that you can cut it, that you can
yes. So how can I be there? Because, well, it's also empathy, because I might be super eager to participate, eager to collaborate, eager to go to separate tables, to talk to different people, but maybe they're not. Maybe they are, for any reasons, they're not ready for it. So what can I do to move one step at a time, right? And then maybe I will start with some very simple activity. Maybe they'll talk to the person next to them. Maybe they will start individually or in group, or maybe on a more traditional format, using more traditional formats at first, and then slowly building up as they feel more comfortable, as they feel that actually they're safe. Like you talk about psychological safety, like they feel that they can relax a little bit more. Maybe, people are more, get to know each other better. They know who is in the room. Can I trust these people? Can I trust this facilitator? And then maybe, sometimes in the second or third day, maybe it takes some time to get to go deep in a more profound activity that might bring elements, might bring emotions, might bring discussions, tough topics. But those are the ones we're going for, right? When we're collaborating.
I think like when we design and when we get to the room, there are many things happen between the briefing, the discovery, the design, the room, the night between one day and the other, the nights between one session and the next session, if we're talking about a multi-session program, for example. And a lot of people don't understand this. It's different as giving classes. A professor has his own list of things that he has to teach. He has to go through this point A, B, C, and D. But now when we're talking about facilitation, we have to get to point Z. We don't necessarily have to go through A, B, C, D to get there. Sometimes we can just go crazy and go to Y, Z. like we can just jump. And I think the sensitiveness of like a facilitator with their own approach, that's what we're speaking a little bit before we started also, is to understand what kind of environment you're into. Sometimes, and I'm known as like the chaotic facilitator, sometimes I put people in chaotic situations just
Yeah.
just because that's what they need, that's what I feel that the group needs. So instead of going step by step and slowly, I just throw a bomb in the middle of the room and I let them try to fix everything that's broken right now. Sometimes what we need is to put people facing to face in a methodology where people are going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing in this company. And then sometimes people are going to start crying. Sometimes people are going to start laughing. Sometimes people are not going to be very happy with what's going on. But you can't really, make everyone satisfied. It's a bit difficult that one.
Yeah. And what you're saying about bringing the bomb or bringing something unexpected or something that will shake the sequence of things, it actually connects to reality, because reality is like that, and it's unexpected. The outcome, you don't know what the outcome will be. And I think us as facilitators, as hosts of this moment, we need to be ready to deal with whatever happens. And I think I've been working a lot of teachers with educators, so with academia for years, and I see a lot of this ABCD that you describe, 1, 2, 3, 4, is a lot to do with control, like wanting to have
Yes.
the control of the content, the narrative, the learning, as if they could control what the student is learning. They will learn this, and then this, and this, that. Every person is different. So I think also for educators, also in the classroom, to adopt this idea of bringing something on, see what happens, see how people react, get the students excited, curious, angry, and then let's deal with the emotions that we do sometimes with adults. I think it's the best approach to education, because it helps to prepare kids and adults for a real life of things being unexpected, being full of emotions, being tough sometimes, and that's what we have to be prepared for.
True. We are getting to the end of. We could be talking
We
forever.
just
We're
started,
getting to
right? We just started. We're just starting.
Yes, I wanted you to share what you're doing today. Like what have you been working on as a cross-cultural facilitator?
Yeah, I think that I've moved to Portugal 3 years ago. And before, I was living in Brazil for about 17 years. So a lot of projects were focused in Brazil, a little bit of Latin America, but mostly in Brazil. And coming to Europe, my desire, my wish, and it's coming true, is to work with international teams, international groups, international organizations, which is being my life now. So either remotely based in Portugal or traveling to work with a lot of teams, which has been kind of what I think is a bit of the pandemic, after pandemic. A lot of teams, they work more decentralized. They might have units, centers, but they always have people working different time zones in different locations, or they are actual global teams, part of organizations, but sometimes they need to meet. They need to meet together, person eye to eye, next to each other for a few days for a retreat. And then that's what I come in to help them make sense of this realities they live in, build cohesion, working like how can we work together? What's our vision? So in a way, it's kind of this little spaces that help them to build energy so that they can be decentralized again, working as a team, even if they're in different zones, different parts of the globe.
And now we know that when this global team meets and finds Henrique in a room, you're gonna find him smiling, being strict with time,
Yes. Yeah.
and being empathic.
Thank you. Yes. Hopefully,
And
that's how I
chances
try to show
are,
up every time.
every time you meet an international team, you're also putting on your backpack a little bit of their own culture, a little bit of their stories, a little bit of
Yeah.
how they do, or what they call, even
Yes.
like activities that we call them differently worldwide. The
Yeah.
plays, the games, everything is different. And that's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Henrique, thank you very much for this. I really appreciate your time, your energy, and I'll invite everyone who has watched us to look for Henrique Vedana He has been doing some great stuff. Contact him here on LinkedIn or it's only LinkedIn. He doesn't use Instagram.
At the moment, just on LinkedIn. Yeah, it's
Look
okay.
at this.
They find me. If people want to find me, they'll find me. And Thay, thanks for the invitation. Muito obrigado. I love it. And we will collaborate soon. I see us collaborating.
Yes, of course. We will soon see us together. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. See you next Tuesday.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.